Welcome to Elizabeth Reads. We are reading A Place Called Perfect. We are on chapter 19, The Locked Room. First things first, Violet had to get inside the house. She tried the doors, but they were locked. The windows. The upstairs ones at the back had no glass. Only white plastic sheeting covered the cavities. She crept round the estate as quietly as she could, looking for something that would help her to reach the windows. In the back garden of one of the derelict houses was a battered workbench. Behind the bench, a pile of tools and broken steel piping were gathering rust in the dirt. Hidden amongst them was a rickety old ladder. It looked just long enough to reach the upstairs windows. The garden, like the rest of the estate, was eerie, and a sudden chill danced up her spine. She remembered Boy's story about it being haunted, but she shook away the thought. This was no time to worry about ghosts. The ladder was lightweight, and she could carry it easily. She struggled to prop it up against the wall of the house where Boy was captive, tiredness taking hold of her limbs. It fell just short of the ledge. With a deep breath, she took her first step. The metal clattered a little, and she stopped for a moment, hoping no one had heard. It wobbled as she climbed to the top, her legs shaking. Pressing her body firmly against the wall, she stretched until her fingers gripped the corner of the ledge. The ladder slipped, scraping a little against the wall, and she gasped, her heart thumping. With all her strength, she pulled and wiggled her way onto the window ledge. She tumbled through the opening, landing with a thud on the cold cement floor. She lay still for a moment, every muscle shaking. Thunder boomed overhead, this time followed by a flash of white lightning that illuminated the empty landing. It was concrete, gray, and barren. Shadows haunted every corner. The house was silent, deathly still. There were 4 doors, 2 on either side of the landing. She crawled quickly to the first. The room was empty. She continued through the darkness to the second door. This room was bigger than the last and pitch black. The windows were blocked up with plastic sheeting that rattled in the wind. Violet felt her way across the floor as another bolt of lightning lit up the space, revealing a body in the corner. Boy! She scurried towards him on all fours, a sudden lump in her throat. He had a leather collar round his neck that was secured to the floor by a steel chain. The chain was strong, too strong to break, and the collar was locked shut at the catch. She searched frantically for something that might cut through it. Suddenly, a door slammed downstairs. Violet froze as voices filled the hallway below. Heavy footsteps walked past the stairs and into a room at the back of the house. Just like George to wake us, as if we're not working hard enough for him growing those things. I know, the other yawned, but the longer we're here minding that fella upstairs, the longer we're away from weeding. What do you suppose he'll do with him? The first snorted. Haven't a clue. Experiments, probably. You reckon? He deserves it anyway. That boy was always a troublemaker. Could never get me hands on him. Slippery little customer, blasted no man's lander. Go up and check on him, will you? Make sure he hasn't wiggled out of this one. Feet pounded toward the stairs. The room was bare. There was nowhere to hide. Violet scrambled for the door on the opposite side of the landing and rattled the handle. It was locked. She yelped in fear. Crying like a girl, eh, boy? The watcher laughed. He was nearing the top of the stairs. Suddenly, the door in front of Violet opened. A hand dragged her inside just as the watcher stepped onto the landing. Heavy steps stopped outside the door just as Violet took in her rescuer, a dark-haired lady. The woman signaled for Violet to climb into an old wardrobe in the corner of the room. She did as instructed without question or sound. I definitely heard something, but he's still out cold up here, the watcher shouted downstairs. How stupid are you, you twit? The roar came from below. Go and check on your one. Make sure she's not up to no good. Violet's heart pounded in the darkness as the door of the room she'd just entered creaked open. What are you playing at? She heard the watcher growl. Cards, the woman replied coolly. Mind if I join? I'd like to give you a good beating. He sniggered. Of course I mind. Don't be so cheeky, the watcher said, surging inside, or I'll wipe that smile off your pretty little face. The woman said calmly. Do you want me to report you to the archers? You, the watcher growled. What? The woman replied. You think I wouldn't do it? The door slammed as the watcher thundered back downstairs. One of these days, he roared up from below. The dark-haired lady chuckled. Violet remained in her hiding place. She was in awe of the woman's bravery, but for some reason she felt she had to stay in the wardrobe until asked to leave it. You can come out now. She pushed the wooden door so it swung open, gradually revealing the room. She hadn't had a chance to look at it properly before. It was a complete contrast to the rest of the house. lit with candles which cast warm flickers of light and shadow across an ornate wallpaper. The room was full of rich reds and deep woody browns, just like the Archer's opticians. As she stepped out, her feet sank into the lavish carpet. Beautiful paintings, seascapes, and country scenes in gold-gilded frames decorated the walls. They were wild and full of life, like the artist was trying to paint freedom, but the room itself felt homely and safe. "Have a seat, young lady," the woman said, gesturing to a chair by an antique wooden table. Violet sat on the chair, her legs dangling over its edge. "So, what brings you here?" the woman asked. What could Violet say? She stared blankly at her host. She was maybe the most elegant lady Violet had ever seen. She was old, though, probably as old as Violet's mother. Her hair was long as Violet wished hers to be, and like a jet-black veil it fell down the back of the chair and pooled on the floor. Her face was pale, and her large eyes were green as the grass in spring. She wore a gold locket inset with green stones that caught the light in her eyes. Violet watched as she rubbed it between her thumb and forefinger. If ever the word beautiful fitted anyone, it fitted this woman. She was like a queen or a princess. Violet wished for a minute she could be just like her. "Are you okay? Has a cat got your tongue?" "Is there a cat?" Violet asked, confused. "Oh, it's only an expression," the woman smiled. Violet shifted in the chair. "Are you in trouble?" Should she tell this lady? She wasn't afraid of her, but could she trust her? She was in need of a friend. "Kind of," Violet answered. "Well, I'm kind of in trouble, but my friend Boy, he's in big trouble." "Boy?" "Yes, I know," Violet smiled. "He's from No Man's Land. He says that's his name." "Is he in No Man's Land now?" "No, he's in the room next door, chained up with a collar on his neck. I'm trying to free him so he can go and find my dad." "Is your father in trouble too?" "Yes, well, I think so. I think the Archers have him, and they're making him do some sort of experiments." The woman's face changed. She turned and walked to the window that overlooked the estate, thumbing her locket again. She didn't speak for a while. Violet wasn't sure whether to break the silence, so she distracted herself with the writing desk and a handwritten letter that lay on top of it. The handwriting was beautiful, swirly, and delicate. Violet's teacher always told her off for her messy letters. She knew it wasn't right to read it, but... "Dear boys, this is a day like all the others. I sit in my room and cry for all I have lost." "What is your name, young lady?" the woman said, turning sharply. Violet blushed, tearing her eyes from the letter. It's Violet," she stuttered. "That's beautiful," the woman smiled. "You must have wonderful parents to pick such a beautiful name." Yes." Images of her parents flooded Violet's mind. Her throat tightened. "You know, your father is looking for you," the lady said mysteriously. Violet sat forward. "Have you seen him?" "No, I'm afraid not, Violet, but I know what it is like to lose your children, and he will not rest until he finds you." "He didn't lose me. I lost him." "For a parent, it's the same thing, Violet. He'll find you." "Did you find your boys?" she asked, then quickly wished she hadn't. "No," the lady replied, looking away. Silence flooded the room once more. "I gave up my family a long time ago, Violet, but I will always love them. I know when it is my time I will see them again." "Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to be nosy." "It's okay," the woman smiled. "Now, don't you want to free your friend?" Violet nodded. "Well then," the woman said, walking to the cabinet and pulling a knife from the depths of the drawer. "Take this. It should cut through the collar." "Will you come with us?" "No, Violet, but I wish you the best of luck." "Are you a prisoner?" "Of sorts. But you're not chained up." "Not physically, Violet, but the world has changed. There is nothing out there for me now." "But this is just a room." "It's my room, Violet," the woman replied abruptly. "I'm sorry. My dad would kill me for asking so many questions," Violet said, as she took the knife from the lady and walked to the door. "Thank you." She was about to turn the handle when the woman spoke again. "Violet, I try not to spend too much time at my window, but when I do, I notice there is always a lot of activity over there." She pointed to a house 2 doors down from where the watchers were sleeping. "I think perhaps your father is in there." "Thank you," Violet said, feeling suddenly alive again. She slipped silently out the door and back across the hall to rescue Boy, aware that any moment the watchers could mount the stairs once more and find her. The end of the chapter. I'll see you next time on Elizabeth Reads. Bye-bye.